Republican Party is tearing itself apart. Not over policy, not over spending, over Jeffrey Epstein's secret files. White House allies are panicking. They are doing everything in their power to block a House vote that would force those files into the light. Files that survivors say could expose powerful names. Files that some Republicans fear could detonate their careers. And here's the shocker. It isn't Democrats driving this crisis. It's Republicans. A small faction inside the GOP is defying leadership, demanding transparency, and pushing a discharge petition that bypasses the Speaker. That petition is gaining traction. Yeah, you heard that right. A civil war has broken out in the GOP. Trump loyalists on one side, transparency rebels on the other. And the closer this fight gets to the House floor, the more desperate, ugly, and chaotic it becomes. For years, the Epstein story has lingered like a toxic cloud over Washington. After his suspicious death in 2019, the public demanded answers. Survivors demanded justice. Lawmakers demanded disclosure. But time after time, requests for full transparency were stonewalled. The Department of Justice handed over fragments. Courts unsealed pieces. Journalists dug up scraps. But the full files? Calendars, ledgers, visitor logs, internal communication, those remain sealed, redacted, hidden. Until now. In late summer, a bipartisan effort began to boil. A handful of Republicans joined Democrats to force a full House vote, demanding that the DOJ release every unclassified Epstein-related file. Not summaries, not redactions, the real thing. That's where the panic began. Speaker Mike Johnson tried to claim the Oversight Committee had already released enough. Leadership insisted additional votes were moot. But behind the scenes, allies of Donald Trump began calling in favors. They lobbied members. They threatened committee assignments. They warned, don't sign that petition.
But 4 Republicans did: Thomas Massie, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, Nancy Mace. Their signatures cracked open the dam. Because with just a handful more, the petition could hit the magic number to force a vote on the floor, with or without leadership approval. And that's when the knives came out. Here's how fast it escalated. First, the Epstein estate delivered thousands of new documents to Congress. These included detailed schedules in correspondence dating from the mid-2010s. Buried in those logs, names that set Washington on fire. High-profile tech figures, political strategists, former cabinet officials, the kind of entries that spark headlines overnight. Democrats on the Oversight Committee released some of those schedules. Suddenly, media outlets were buzzing. Was Epstein meeting with billionaires? Were top political operatives in the room? Denials poured out. One by one, powerful men insisted the entries were mistakes, misrepresentations, or fabrications. But perception doesn't wait for proof. The leaks had done their job. Inside the GOP, chaos erupted. Trump loyalists demanded unity. They accused the defectors of feeding Democratic attacks. Greene fired back, insisting she wouldn't be bullied. Boebert went further, calling out her own party for protecting predators. Massie warned leadership that the truth always comes out. Trump himself weighed in. Advisors say he personally called at least 2 lawmakers, urging them to back away from the petition. His message? Releasing these files could be a disaster for the party heading into the 2026 midterms. Translation? There's something in those files that worries him. Meanwhile, Democrats smelled blood. They forced repeated procedural votes, not because they expected to win yet, but to embarrass Republicans, to make them vote on record against transparency. Each time the GOP shut it down, Democrats blasted the headlines. Republicans block Epstein files. It stuck.
And here's the panic point. This isn't just about bad press. It's about survival. Some Republicans worry the files contain names tied to donors, allies, maybe even lawmakers themselves. And if those names drop before the midterms, it could be catastrophic. That fear has turned into open war. Closed-door caucus meetings are filled with shouting matches. Transparency advocates accuse leadership of corruption. Trump loyalists accuse defectors of betrayal. Even in the Senate, cracks politics have formed. A recent vote to attach Epstein file disclosure to a defense bill failed by a razor-thin margin, with Josh Hawley and Rand Paul breaking ranks. The message is clear. This isn't fringe anymore. The demand for disclosure is spreading. The fallout is brutal. Republican strategists warn this fight is handing Democrats a gift. Polling shows a majority of Americans, Republican and Democrat alike, support releasing the files. Survivors groups are amplifying the pressure, staging rallies, demanding answers, calling the GOP a party of cover-ups. Each redaction becomes another scandal. Every delay becomes another headline. And still, the files remain sealed. So, Republicans now face a nightmare. Do they hold the line, block the vote, and look like they're hiding something, or do they cave, release the files, and risk detonating political careers just months before the next election? Either choice is poison. And that's why the party is cracking under the pressure, because no matter what they do, the story isn't going away. The closer the discharge petition gets to succeeding, the more desperate the backroom maneuvers become. Arm twisting, whispers of blackmail, threats of lost funding. Leadership is playing hardball, but transparency rebels aren't backing down. Which leads to the question gnawing at Washington: what happens if this petition actually succeeds? But here's the part nobody's talking about. What happens if this petition actually goes forward? The moment those files hit daylight, the fallout will be nuclear.
First, political trust inside the GOP collapses. Members who fought to keep the files sealed will look compromised. The rebels will look like heroes. And Trump's grip on the party? Shaken. Because even if a handful of Republicans can break ranks on something this toxic, what's to stop others from doing the same? Second, the media circus will devour Washington. Every page of those files will be dissected, every name highlighted, every meeting scrutinized. Even unproven entries will become headlines. The damage won't wait for evidence. Perception will kill careers before facts ever catch up. Third, survivors will seize the microphone. For years, they've demanded justice. Now, they'll have proof of who enabled Epstein, who looked the other way, who maybe even participated. Their voices will cut through partisan noise and shame anyone standing in the way. And then the legal machine. Redacted sections could trigger lawsuits. Judges may be forced to intervene. If names tied to sitting lawmakers surface, ethics probes and criminal investigations are unavoidable. This isn't speculation. It's a legal inevitability. Electoral fallout? Brutal. Republicans already battling public distrust will now have to explain why their leaders fought so hard to suppress evidence. Swing district voters won't buy excuses. Senators in tight races could see their re-election hopes implode. Imagine campaign ads plastered with, "They voted to hide the Epstein files." That sticks. But the consequences don't stop with Republicans. Democrats, too, could take shrapnel. If any of their names appear in those files, their moral high ground vanishes, which means both parties are playing a game of roulette with a loaded chamber. This isn't just about justice, it's about survival. And survival politics always ends in blood. Zoom out, and the stakes become even clearer. This fight isn't just about one man's crimes. It's about the architecture of power in America.
When Congress forces the release of sealed or classified files, it redraws the boundaries of oversight. Think about that. If lawmakers succeed here, future battles over immigration, national security, even classified foreign policy could face the same demands for disclosure. The precedent could be seismic. And history tells us what happens when transparency collides with entrenched power. Remember Watergate? Nixon's tapes were supposed to stay private. When Congress pried them open, his presidency collapsed. Remember Clinton's impeachment? Private misconduct became a public trial, reshaping American politics for decades. Remember the McCarthy hearings? Secrecy weaponized turned into reputational destruction on a national scale. Epstein's files could be all of that and worse, because this isn't just about a president, it's about a global web of influence, money, and exploitation.
For Trump, this is personal. Allies whisper that he fears the perception, not necessarily the facts. Even a hint of association with Epstein could stain his campaign. For Democrats, this is strategy. They see an opening to paint Republicans as hypocrites, defenders of secrecy, protectors of predators. And for the GOP, this is an identity crisis. Are they the party of Trump, willing to shield at all costs, or the party of transparency, willing to risk the fallout for the truth? That question is tearing them apart. What's unfolding isn't a debate. It's a civil war, a fight over the very soul of the Republican Party, played out in real time with Epstein's files as the trigger. So what comes next? 3 scenarios stand out, each dangerous in its own way. Scenario 1. Full disclosure. The petition hits the threshold. A vote is forced. The DOJ complies. Thousands of pages are dumped. Names intact. Chaos erupts. Careers end overnight. Lawsuits pile up. Congress faces an unprecedented wave of resignations and investigations. Voters head into the midterms with blood on their tongues.
Scenario 2. Partial release. Leadership cuts a deal. Some documents come out, heavily redacted, enough to calm outrage, but not enough to reveal the worst. Republicans declare victory, claiming they've balanced transparency with national security. Democrats cry cover-up. Survivors say it's a sham. The issue doesn't die. It festers, and leaks, inevitable and devastating, keep the scandal alive. Scenario 3. Suppression. The RGP crushes the petition. Leadership blocks it. Rebels are punished, and the files remain sealed. Short-term, they win. Long-term, they lose, because voters remember. And every rumor, every conspiracy theory, every whispered leak grows bigger than the truth ever could. So here we are. The GOP is split wide open. The White House is desperate. The public is demanding answers, and the Epstein files are sitting like a bomb under Capitol Hill, ready to go off. The question isn't whether this fight will leave scars, it's how deep they'll run. Do you believe this is accountability finally breaking through the wall of secrecy? Or is it just political theater, designed to humiliate opponents while the real secrets stay hidden? Because make no mistake, this story isn't ending here. The next vote, the next leak, the next subpoena could change everything. If you want the raw truth, unfiltered and unburied, stay locked in. Like, share, subscribe. Because when those files finally crack open, the fallout won't just hit Washington. It will hit us all. And trust me, this is only the beginning.